Welcome to the April 9th meeting of the City Council Finance Subcommittee. I want to thank President McCoy for sitting in tonight under Rule 2 as an ex facto member and under Rule 11 as an alternate member because two of the Finance Committee members had personal commitments they couldn't get out of. I'll be taking notes tonight, so I can't ask Joe to do everything. So. And
Joe might come back again now.
Yeah, I'm tired.
The first agenda item is approval of minutes. We'll wait till the next meeting on that for the two members to get back. Mayor's communication.
Oh, you have enough on your agenda, Dan. I'm all set.
Okay, thank you. Public speak. No one here to speak. We're going to change the order a little bit in even though we've spent a lot of time with him in the last last month or so, since there's only one fire item, it's on the second page. I'll do that one fire item, and I believe all the rest we're going to take up tonight are going to be public works. I spoke to the city clerk tonight. We're not going to take up the CPA funds for historic records or the review of elected salaries for officials. She's going to be appearing at our next subcommittee meeting on those matters, or at least on the CPA matter. So with that, Chief, you have an interdepartmental transfer request for $11,700 to transfer from reserve fund to fire vehicle repairs, and this appears to be additional items for the ladder?
Yes. I stopped sending things to get fixed and then have them break. So with the ladder, what we did was the company that does our maintenance, who's also the manufacturer, had them go through it and give me a complete list of priority items, which good and bad, because they did give me a complete list of priority items that they found during their inspection that needed immediate replacement to keep the vehicle operating. Did you get them?
Oh, yes. You have this, right, Dan? And
Yes. Yes.
Joe?
Yep.
So the manufacturer, KME Fire Apparatus, gave us a list, and then the check engine issue that had been addressed last year returned, and it appears that it's part of the computer and part of the sensors that have gone bad. So Patriot Freightliner out of Westfield, their estimate, I believe, is $2,200 for repairs to the engine of the ladder. That's their estimate. Majority of that being labor salvage. And I'm hoping that's everything for that truck for the next 5 years.
Okay. So all this stuff like the outrigger bolts and lights are just things that they went through and need to be upgraded, the air tank drain and water valve leaking.
Yeah, the valve that brings water from the truck up to the top of the platform at the base of the truck, because that valve is attached to the truck permanently, but it has to have 360 degrees swivel for the ladder so it can move. They don't know if there was metal shavings in there or rust and or calcium deposits from hard water. But the gasket that's in there is to the point where it leaks now. So we're not getting the full water up to the 100-foot distance of the ladder that we're required, or that we need, because it's leaking out that valve.
What did we fund for this? We put something on the ladder, or was that just the emission light,
That was the
sensor?
cable that runs inside the ladder, that brings electrical power from the basket through all the flies. It's 100 and something feet. It was the check engine light that was an exhaust recirculator issue, and it was a fuel pressure issue.
Okay.
Now it's temperature sensor issues. I think I'm out of sensors to replace them after this one.
What year is this one, Chief?
2008, which is the newest of the 3 firefighting vehicles in the fleet.
And did you get a typical 1-year warranty? Is that typical?
Yeah, the only thing other than the fire pump, the engine, the transmission, the drive axles, those have the standard manufacturer 5 years. But all the valves and all this other stuff was, I'd have been better if the motor blew up, because it would have been covering the warranty to have all the sensors built in. I know, the mayor doesn't want me to say that.
That's bizarre. A river bolts for rusted, really? This is a fire truck, it gets wet.
Yeah.
Well, I don't see, I mean, again, I'll make a, you have any more questions?
No.
I'll make a motion. I just, I mean, we have to have fire equipment that's
Yeah.
working. I think that was proven a week or so ago. You know, with a building down here in Neenie's, an old building like that, if you don't have fire equipment, it could be fast, I'm sure. So, with that said, I'll make a motion that we recommend that the full city council approve an interdepartmental transfer in the amount of $11,700 from the reserve fund for fire vehicle repairs to provide funds for engine and ladder 1 repairs.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Let me just write down who made the motion and who made the second, because I'll forget. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Nobody else can oppose it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow, Dave.
Okay, moving on to Public Works. I guess we'll take them in order. And I thank Joe, I know he was here, or at least these were on the agenda last time, and we were busy, and he said he didn't care if we put it off, because we had some other things we were discussing, and I guess we'll start with the supplemental appropriation request from enterprise retained earnings to capital water purchase for a 4x2 pickup truck for the water department. If you could just address a little of your need there, Joe. And
Yeah, that is the supervisor's vehicle. So he was using a 2001 Chevy S10 and took it in for service one day, and they put it on the lift and they said, no, it's got to come out of service. It's just too rusted. So what we did then is there was a 2006 Ford Cruiser parked out there that was ready to go to auction too. But it was a little better than the 2001. So we took the plates off the 2001 and put it on the Crown Vic, so he's actually riding around in a Crown Vic now. And what this will do is just allow him to put the proper tools in there and do what he's supposed to be doing.
just a couple of quick questions. I know the S10 was a lot smaller truck. I don't believe at least domestic makers make small trucks anymore. I mean, I know they only because I own one.
That's correct.
And I think some may be coming back, but I don't believe any. Maybe Toyota might still make them. But so this is a little bigger truck, and I know, and only because we have the council rule there about fuel efficiency. I know this one's got a V8, but if I read this correct from Liberty Chevrolet, this is the thing for 13, but you're actually going to get a 14 probably. And if you can believe commercials, I know Chevy's commercial says that their V8 is more fuel efficient than Ford's V6. Now, whether that's true, I guess I'd have to ask Ford. But I know they've improved the fuel efficiency on these.
Oh yeah, this says V6.
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
That's the right one?
Yep,
I was just.
V6. Great, 6400 GVW.
Oh, okay. I was reading down further where it said, where it was saying a V8. In other words, it was upgraded to a V8 down below, though.
Yeah, what?
See, under 1.07 of the. In other words, that's the basic,
yeah.
and then
Okay,
so it was upgraded to
Okay.
07. I don't know if they make a V6 anymore. I mean, you can,
great. The difference in gas mileage from a V6 to a V8 is very minimal anyway.
Right.
It may be 1 mile, if that. But the thing is, these, even if they made these S10s, still made these S10s were something that bought us about 10 years, but they're undersized.
they don't hold for what you're doing. You can't haul anything.
You can't haul anything, and the minute you put something on it, it's overweight. And, a heavy-duty half-ton pickup truck is going to do what we need to do.
And you said this is a supervised vehicle, so it should last for a while at least, right?
It should. Well, the other one, the 2001.
You actually, you did get a lot of
The
it. We're
2001
talking.
went to 2013, so
Right,
we
so
got 12 years out of the
out of it,
S10.
right.
Right.
Councilor McCoy, any additional questions?
No, there's things that are needed.
Did Rick and Dennis,
Yes.
because that's the new thing.
Yeah, Rick and Dennis, the mechanics are the ones that really spec this out. They looked at what we're doing and they said, this is what you're doing. This is what you really need.
Do they, well, they wouldn't do repairs while they're under warranty, but after they go off, they do them, right? So I know that they keep us,
Well,
Exactly.
yeah.
keep
We
us.
we decided to have the people that end up fixing them actually be in on the purchases.
Purchase.
Right, have some input as to what.
Yeah.
what we're-
Because we keep them long enough, they're always off warranty.
And that way they can, they kind of know what has issues, and then they can have the supplies on hand, and it seems to work really good when you include the people that'll be fixing them before you order it.
Right.
Anything else?
You ready for a motion?
Sure.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the $28,000 from the prior retained earnings towards capital purchase for the capital purchase of 4x2 pickup truck for the water department.
I'll second it. We have a motion, a second, on the $28,000 supplemental appropriation from retained earnings to water capital purchase for a pickup truck. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. 2-0. Moving on to, I believe it's the $75,000 supplemental appropriation retained earnings for water capital purchase of meter replacement.
Right. This is still part of the program we started back in 2001. We replace all the meters with radio reads. It makes it easier to read the meters. We want to get all the old meters out of the system because as meters get older, it's just like people get slow down. And we need to make sure we're accounting for all our water that we're, and billing for all our water that we're actually pumping. I have a sheet here that shows what we've actually spent. If you look at the first column, those were capital appropriations, both for 2013 and 2014. There were no capital appropriations. But if you go to the next line over, that's what we actually spent out of budget. So we spent $46,000 out of this year's budget. Well, that meant that's $46,000 in other material we didn't buy and we can't buy now. But we still need these meters. And if you look at the amount of radio reads, right now we've got a little over 4,000 radio reads. There's still 1,613 out there that are old meters. But with the radio read and the meter, that's about $200 a meter. So this won't get us to the end, but it'll certainly help us.
So we are getting closer on
We're
this
getting
project.
close.
But when you say that you'll always have to buy meters because as the first ones that you replace are running out.
Right.
So you're replacing, you'll always have a replacement.
Right, there'll always be a replacement program. The meters itself may go a little longer than the radio read heads, but the radio read, the radio units, as you can see, they're $95 a piece. We can, even though the meter's still counting, the battery's gone dead on this thing, and it's not sending the signal, so we have to change the head out. But obviously, there's going to come a point where we got to change both the meter and the head. So there's always going to be some sort of a replacement program. Just because we replace them all doesn't mean they're good for 50 years. That doesn't work with water meters.
And so this $75,000, it will purchase approximately how many? You said about 200. 200
no,
days, sorry.
It's $200 a meter. I didn't do the math.
Okay, no, that's what I just want to make sure that.
Yeah.
I actually became part of the program.
We decided to do 2 years.
Okay,
right?
150 says 600 meters, so that would be about 300 meters.
About 300, yeah. Okay, so. I actually became part of the program this year when I got a card from the water department that they needed to change out my water meter.
On the plus side, it saves so much time in reading. It frees up the guy where before, when we had to manually read, it took one guy almost the entire month to read. The guy came in yesterday, he was already finished with the section, but that's 7 days from the first to the 7th. He was all done reading already because of the radio reads,
So much faster.
so much faster. Well, that frees them up now to go back and repair meters and change meters, so that's a big time saver too.
It wasn't a long process to change. I mean, but, they were there. I can't remember.
Maybe an hour.
Yeah, maybe an hour.
Right.
But I had it cleaned out. They did say that. So Sometimes they have to do a lot of moving when they get there, you know. I figured that they need as much room as they could. Councilor McCoy, any further questions?
So obviously, still no money for capital appropriation for these meters. These are still coming from your retained earnings, these appropriations. Well, so I'll make a motion to approve the supplemental appropriation of $75,000 from enterprise retained earnings to our capital purchase to continue the meter replacement program.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second to ask the full city council approve of supplemental appropriation of $75,000 from retained earnings to water capital purchase for meter replacement. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. 2-0. Our third item tonight is moving down to the, and you're going to have to explain exactly what this one is, but the $10,000 to fund the capital expense for the NPDES permit requirements.
We are under permit, as is every wastewater treatment plant. There's a NIPDES permit that's given to each treatment plant that has to meet those requirements set by EPA for the discharge of the wastewater before it can go to the Connecticut River. It has to meet certain requirements. Now, those permits are updated or renewed like every 5 years. We just got our new permit. Well, every time there's a new permit, things change. They add things that you have to do to improve your discharge to the Connecticut River.
Mm-hmm.
And this NPDES permit covers a lot of things, not only the way the treatment plant is run, but it also covers things you'll have to do in your collection system. Look for infiltration, look for inflow. If you have a lot of rain and you get high flows, they want to know where it's coming from. They want that reduced. There is a lot of things that we have to do with this permit that is more than $10,000. But this first $10,000 piece has to be completed by September. And it has to do with process changes at the wastewater treatment plant. So just because we're looking for $10,000 to work with our permit doesn't mean we're going to be good after this with the permit. It means at some point we're going to be coming back because there's other parts of that permit that are time sensitive with different times that we're going to have to address. Like I said, this one is the first thing. This one is due. We have to have this done by September. So we need to get on this right away, and we need to make the process changes at the plant so we're meeting that piece of the permit before we can move on to the next one and so forth.
Okay. What exactly, if you know, does the initial stand for? 'Cause somebody might ask. You know.
Something like National Pollution Discharge, something like that. I don't exactly know what it is. Yeah.
Standards, environmental standards.
We've always known that as the NIPDES.
Councilor McCoy, anything?
No?
Sounds like something we, there's just one other question, Joe. I know that I think we have a public hearing coming up on the bonding for the water. Does this have anything to do with that or the other? I know that was mostly stormwater, but so,
Well,
I mean, would it be related or?
That's actually everything, stormwater, water, wastewater. This is outside of that.
Outside.
This is something that came directly from EPA and says, okay, here's what you got to do to meet your permit to discharge to the Connecticut River, and here's the timetable that you've got to abide by.
So this is very specific.
This is very specific.
Okay.
So you would say, Joe, that this stuff will get covered kind of again in this overall, so that you have like wasn't this going to also sort of lay out for you, including timelines you already have and timelines that they thought might be coming?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. The plan will look at what EPA is looking at additional changes in the future because they, like I said, they always change, they always make the permit more stringent. They always do. So this 1.1, one of the things we'll do is look at what else we will have to probably be looking at down the road that's going to affect our discharge permit.
Joe, you?
Yeah, I'll then make a motion to approve a supplemental appropriation of $10,000 from enterprise retained earnings to capital purchase to fund the expense for the NPDES permit requirements.
Second it. We have a motion and a second on the $10,000 supplemental appropriation. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Moving on to, I think we only have two more. $15,000 from enterprise retained earnings to capital purchase for gravity thickener pump.
Yeah. It sounds
I
very.
was going to say, doesn't...
It sounds very technical, but it's really not. One of the big things that happens at the wastewater treatment plant is that the waste comes in and it has to go through certain tanks and has to settle out. And the stuff that settles out, it has to be pumped back and retreated. We have two pumps that run, that are connected to that gravity thickener. They're probably 30 years old. One of them we've already replaced out of our budget last year, and or maybe even the year before. And we've figured out that when that pump breaks, it costs us about $7,000 to fix it because they're so old and outdated, and you can't buy parts for them. You have to have parts actually machined. So we did buy one out of our own budget in the past, and our guys put it in. We've installed it, and it's working fine. It's working great. It's so this purchase of another one will complete the set. So we'll have two identical ones, and so we can continue to pump our thickened sludge.
Does it work if only one's pumping? I mean,
It will, but
that puts
you
pressure.
need redundancy in case one goes down.
Oh, no, I realize you can't, you can't just let it. Mayor, you got a comment?
Did you say, so are we still replacing old pumps, or is it the cost of a new pump out of the question? I mean, are we,
This is a new one.
This is a new one?
This is a new one. This is a new one. We found one that will fit, because again, it has to go in a certain space, because everything is piped, and instead of, making it, piping changes all over, if you can find a pump that goes into that space, you save a lot of time. We found one, and we proved that it worked over the last 2 years. And like I said, we also found out too that if you had to repair this thing, it's half the price of the new one that we want to replace.
so last year's one,
Yep.
did you buy, because they're old, right? They're
Right.
30 years old. You found like, an old one?
No.
You got a brand new one, but what had to be machine specifically made, because...
Well, we'll see nothing. Last year, one of them went, or the year before, one of them went down.
Uh-huh.
So we found a pump. It came out of our operating budget because we lost the pump. We had to do something.
Right.
We put it in there, and it's working. It works fine. So we want to buy another one identical to that one
Oh, I see.
and put it in.
I think if I understand what you're saying, what's happened if it breaks down, if this pump breaks down, it would cost you about that to machine parts to fix it as opposed to just putting in a new
Yeah.
pump. You're trying to be a little proactive and
That's
put in
right.
a new pump before we're...
And we are to the end of our life on this pump. We know this. We know this. It's not something that, well, let's just put a new one in and we won't have to worry about it. No, we're worried about this one because we know that it has a lot of hours on it.
Were these originals for the treatment plant? Or
No, I'm
not
sure they
really?
weren't originals, but
Right.
that's,
Been a lot of years.
they run so many hours because they have to. They have to do what they have to do, so they run a lot of hours. They have a tough job.
The world's dirtiest job.
Councilor McCoy, any additional questions?
Making a motion for approve the supplemental appropriation of $15,000 from enterprise retained earnings to the wastewater treatment plant capital purchase purchase, replace the gravity thickener pump.
Second that. We have a motion and second on the supplemental appropriation of $15,000 from retained earnings to capital purchase for the gravity thickener pump. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. 2-0. And our last item tonight is $60,000 supplemental appropriation from retained earnings to wastewater treatment capital purchase to fund the capital expense of pump station improvements.
The wastewater treatment plant is fed by 18 pump stations around town. That's the problem with East Hampton, we're too flat. So we can only go so far, and then we have to pump it up, and it flows again. Well, some of these pump stations are in good shape, and others need a lot of work. We've done work on, say, the end of True Heart Drive. There's a little pump station there. We've done work on that. Again, through funding from the pump station. Most of the work is done by our guys. Most of the work is done by, we need an electrician, we'll bring an electrician, but it's not something that's bid out to a contractor. We do it all. Another case in point is there's a pump station down at the end of East Street and Route 5. And 2 years ago, Carl, Tom, and Jim, and the engineer came up with a plan, and it took all three departments to make this work and do the work. But they actually removed old, outdated pumps from that, put in a new wet well on the outside, installed new pumps and everything. And I think it was probably $50,000. And if we were to put that out to bid, that would have been more like $150,000. And by putting in the right size pumps, we found that we've reduced our electricity by a third that we used to, because the old pumps were so outdated and so inefficient that by putting in the new pumps that's sized for the amount of wastewater it's supposed to be pumping, we've reduced our electricity. Right now, we have to do work on the Ballard Street pump station. We have Lowndes Avenue pump station that is in tough shape. We have another one on East Street that's in tough shape. So there's never a shortage of where we can go. And we might not concentrate all on one pump station. We may put a new control panel in this pump station, and we may put new pumps in that station. But it's like, where's our worst problem here?
If a pump station, say, fails, then, I mean, you have to, I mean, there's no, like, backup at all.
No, if the pump station fails, it backs up in the line. I hate to say this, it backs up in the line, it's going to back up into people's lines, and then we have a big problem. If a pump station fails, we physically have to go out there with a septic truck from a contractor and keep drawing wastewater out of that wet well to make room for the wastewater to come into it, and then take that truck down the wastewater treatment plant and dump it. So that truck has to keep cycling. It's not like, oh, come back tomorrow. No, we just got to keep working because we're going to end up with a problem.
Until you fix the problem.
Until you fix it.
So is there, a lot of times there's appropriations, there's itemized this. Where'd you come up with the fee for $60,000? Because that sounds like it's a mishmash of things you might be trying to fix.
Yeah, it's something that, in talking to Carl, he said, in the past I've replaced electrical panel for $20,000, and I replaced pumps for $20,000, and I replaced something else for $10,000. So it's okay. That's what we need here. That's what we need here, and that's what we need here. So let's concentrate on these items.
And this is a capital appropriation? Capital purchase.
Does each pump station have one pump?
No, again, each pump station
Depending on the size.
They're all different sizes based on the flow that's coming into it. But there's always two pumps in there in case one goes down. You always have the next one.
And parts for these, I assume, are...
Well, that's the other thing. Even the electrical panels, once you start upgrading the electrical panels, they're not up to code. So the whole panel has to be replaced to bring it up to code. And they're in a harsh environment. They're down in a wet environment, and the panels, eventually they just fall apart. They have a life, a useful life, and after that, it's just time for them to be replaced.
Okay. Councilman McCoy, anything else?
No, I don't think so. I guess I'll make a motion to approve supplemental appropriation of $60,000 from enterprise retained earnings for wastewater treatment capital purchase for pump station improvements.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second on the capital, the supplemental appropriation of $60,000 from retained earnings of capital purchase for pump station improvements. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. 2-0. Okay, I think that concludes it. What I'll do, Joe, if you can make the next, not the next city council meeting, at the next meeting on the 16th, so it'll be the first meeting in May, the first Wednesday in May, which come on with an electronic device. The 7th?
7th,
So May 7th will be the first meeting in May, and we'll have a public hearing on all the items. They just have to appear once.
Wonderful.
Although, no, you don't have anything on this one. Oh, yeah, you'll have to be at the one next Wednesday for the bonding.
For the bonding.
For the bonding, you'll be.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything else,
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilor
Thank you,
McCoy?
Melissa.
No, I guess
I'll take a motion to adjourn.
not. So moved.
Second.
Thank you.